this game. This game. Hi everybody, welcome to today's video where I'm going to be going over my round 3 game from the Maryland Open. I was exhausted by the time I got to this game, not gonna lie to you. This was my 3rd game of the day. My first 2 games were 45-minute plus 30-second bonus, and this one was 110-minute plus 30-second bonus. So after all of those rounds in the morning, and I was tired, and then I got to this round and it was the longest one actually of the day. But I got to play with white for the first time in the tournament. And I was playing someone my level. They were actually I think they were a little bit higher rated than me. Yeah, they were 1446 and I was 1434. So basically the same thing. And let's just get into the game. I started off with e4. I am an e4 player. And they played e5 and I was kind of excited. I really don't get that many e4, e5 games, especially over the board classical. I don't think I've gotten... Yeah, I haven't gotten any e4, e5 games, so this was my first one, and I was really excited to try out my repertoire and see how I was going to do in a classical format over the board. So I played bishop c4. This is known as the bishop's opening, and it's also a recommendation of the Chess Dojo, and it is something that I have been playing around with for a while. I used to play the Vienna for a couple years, probably like a year and a half, and then I switched over to the bishop's opening, which transposes a lot of the lines, so they're very similar. So my opponent played knight f6, and I used to play d3, but and then like knight c6, knight c3, and then like say like bishop to b4. I used to play this line with starting off with d3. However, I wanted to switch it up and play a little bit more aggressively in playing knight c3. I used to be terrified of this line until I learned how to get out of the tricks of when black takes. I just thought I was screwed because like I used to always take back and get into this, which I don't do anymore. So it's a lot better and I'm no longer scared of seeing knight takes c4. So knight c3, they played bishop e4, which I actually was already out of prep, which is great, right? Move 3. I don't know a lot of theory with this line at all. It's a little bit confusing for me. Should I play d3 and potentially have to play with like doubled c pawns if they take and I have to take back? And that's what I decided to do. I decided to just play d3 and be like, if you want to take, that's fine with me. All my pawns are on like squares. Like, I don't know, this bishop, I don't really care, whatever, take if you really insist. And I'll just play with this structure with, say if they take like this, I'll be happy to play with this structure. I have played with this structure a lot of games in the Vienna like this, so I was fine. And I feel like the doubled c-pawns are actually kind of strong because they cover lots of squares close to the center. So my opponent instead of taking, they just played castles. I mean, if they insist on me not doubling my c-pawns, I will oblige. So I moved my bishop out to d2, they played knight c6, and then I played a3, which might be a little bit of a slow move, but I still think it's fine. It's kind of a move where I'm asking the bishop a question like, hey, are you going to move back to a5? That's not really a really pretty square for you, or are you going to move back to here, which if they just would have moved this way, I probably would have just still pushed. But maybe they could have moved this way and put some pressure. And at this point, I probably would have just developed this way and moved on with my life so that I could then castle. And I would have been fine with this setup. But instead, after I played a3, my opponent played bishop e7, which is honestly just a really sad retreat for the bishop. So I was feeling pretty good. I didn't have to double my c-pawns, and I made their bishop go to a really ugly square. So overall, I felt like I was winning in the opening so far. So now I decided it's time for f4. I love this structure. It's kind of like a reverse King's Indian. And I, get to bring out my knight here, and it's no longer in the way of my f pawn, and I kind of dare black to take. And my opponent took. They accepted the dare, and I decided knight f3. I don't even need to take that pawn right now. I can take my time. It's not going anywhere, and I need to develop and castle, and that is my main goal. So my opponent then played d6, opening up their bishop. I played bishop takes f4, now taking the pawn with my bishop. They then played a6, which I don't know what this move does. This feels like a waste of time. It's way too slow. It's not developing, but maybe they had ideas of then playing b5. I'm not too sure. I decided to ignore what was happening over there and castle myself. And now black's dark square bishop is pretty ugly, and they still need to develop this piece. They then played bishop g4, which is okay. It's kind of annoying for me because it's just putting pressure on this knight. And I was annoyed with this bishop, so I immediately asked it a question, like, you need to get out of here, or are you going to go to h5? They decided to go to h5, keeping the pin. I'm not a huge fan of this move. It keeps pressure on my knight, and it forces me to either play g4 if I want to rid myself of the pin, therefore opening myself up to an attack as the center is not really locked and my king could potentially be pretty unsafe. But if I did play this, it would force them to go back this way, which looks pretty good. And even though my king might be a little unsafe, I felt like I had compensation by having this bishop be a horrible piece. And so I didn't play g4 because I was a little scared, not gonna lie. And I started getting really scared of the knight coming to d4 and putting pressure on my knight, and then forcing either me to open up the g file, like say I play a waiting move like this, they play here. I'm now kind of screwed because what am I gonna do? Say I just like play like this, and they take. I'm now forced to take like this, which opens up my g file, and my king looks kind of unsafe. So I was really scared of the knight getting to d4. Therefore, I played bishop e3, and I think I took 2 minutes here and completely forgot that the knight can just come here. And it's doing the same exact idea, and I was screwed. And also this move is not too great because I'm not developing. So I'm wasting a move where, say, I could have just played queen e2 or queen d2, and it would have been fine. I would have been out of the pin. I should have just played queen d2. Lesson learned, though. I instead played bishop e3, which isn't killing me, but it's not that great of a move. And so now they move their knight here, and I was very upset because now my g file is going to open, and it's going to suck because I don't think I have ever played a game, blitz, rapid, classical, with an open g file in this structure. So I was going to have to make up a plan over the board. Not what I really wanted, but I didn't freak out. I saw this move and I was a little distraught, but I didn't freak out. And I didn't want to trade this bishop and be forced to open up the center if they took like next on the next turn playing knight takes c4. So I played bishop b3, moving out of the way, and they then played a really good move. And they played queen d7, just developing, putting more pressure, getting to an open diagonal. And then I started freaking out because I realized that that's a good move, because now if they take and I take back, this pawn is going to hang. So I freaked out a little bit and I played king h2. I could have played actually just knight takes, and this is an interesting idea. If they take back this way, and then I can play g4, they have to move their bishop back, and this just looks pretty good for me. It's a little uncomfortable, but it was better counterplay than I think playing king h2. King h2 though is fine. I did want to get my king off of the g file, so that did give me a tempo to be able to do that with the threat of the knight taking. They played knight takes f3. I took back with my g-pawn. I learned after this game, thank you Jesse from the Chess Dojo, shout out, that actually my f-pawn is pretty good and it's not really that bad. But in the game, I was severely stressed about my f-pawn, and I was severely stressed that my g-file was mainly open. But my f-pawn actually protects like a lot of squares in the center. My opponent then played a weird move in h6, which I think they were trying to prevent bishop g5, but I didn't really ever want to trade this bishop anyway, because this bishop is great and this bishop sucks. So I wasn't planning on trading that anyway. I was really happy to see a waste of a move in h6. I then played rook g1. I decided I might as well use the semi-open g file if I'm forced to play this structure. I thought I would be able to hide my king on the h file, threatening bishop takes h6 now. And so they played king h7, seeing the threat. I played queen e2. And I'm still protecting my f-pawn, and I'm allowing my rooks to connect as well. And now they played bishop g6, which I thought, okay, they're just trying to stronghold their king on the g file and just put a whole bunch of pieces in the front so I can never break through, which fair enough. Also, this bishop was kind of keeping the pin on my f-pawn and my queen, so it did open me up to now being able to possibly in the future play f4. It was just kind of a waste of time. I feel like they needed to do something else, whether that be like this and open up lines so that they can then come in. Like, I don't know, it was a little bit of a slow move. So now I decided, let's play rook g2. I couldn't decide how I wanted to align my rooks and queen on the g file, so I took actually about 8 minutes here. I had about an hour and 20 minutes, and which this game started with an hour and 50 minutes, so we had been playing for a decent amount of time. A great move that I could have played instead of playing rook g2 was just playing f4 now, because this pin is no longer there, and that would have been a really nice move. Didn't see that though, and I didn't decide to do that. Instead, I was like, let's bring my rooks over and power up on the g file. So played rook g2, they played c6, and now they're trying to play for d5. I decided, continue on with the plan, rook a g1. Looks good to me. They played d5, and now my position, which was killer about 5 moves ago, now is not so great, and the game is just back to equal, which is fine. At least I'm not losing, but I was beating black pretty bad, and now they are back in the game. So now I played queen f2, and I thought this was a really good move because I'm preventing d4, which would have been a fork because they would have been attacking both these pieces, but now if they push, I can just take back, so they're not allowed to push. And also, I'm freeing up this square so my knight can come over here and maybe eventually come over to f4 and threaten this bishop. Felt like a pretty good move to me. These two pieces suck, and I need to make them way better than they are. This bishop needs to eventually be able to get on a good diagonal, because right now it's just being blocked. And this knight also sucks, so I had plans of bringing it this way. So they played bishop d6 check, and now I actually get to play f4, which felt pretty good. And they played bishop c7, moving back. I then played e5, and I felt like the game was now turning in my favor. It was slowly turning the tides. It's still a little scary, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little spicy, but I felt like this move gains a tempo on the knight, as well as kind of makes this diagonal a little stronger and less weak. So they played knight h5, and then I played knight e2, bringing my knight. It needed to be better. It was not a good knight. And then they played bishop f5, which, okay, you're making a silly little threat on h3. So I played queen f3, defending the threat of them winning the pawn. They played g6. I played knight d4, attacking their bishop and bringing my knight into the game finally. I had 51 minutes here. They played knight g7, trying to reroute, and also threatened if I take the bishop, they're going to take back with the knight. My opponent actually offered a draw here, and it was actually really funny. He tried to convince me that this was a draw. He was like, hey, I'm going to offer a draw. I don't see, a way of you breaking through. Maybe there is a way of you breaking through, but I don't see it. And I feel like I can hold unless there's an immediate win that I'm missing. He was actually a really nice guy, the guy that I played. He was really cool. He directed tournaments in different places. He was really cool to talk to. And he started saying hey, I don't think there's a forced win. Maybe you see one, but I think that this is pretty equal. So I'm going to offer a draw. And I think that he was maybe a little bit scared, because now my attack is actually kind of rolling in. Towards the end of the opening, when I had blundered the knight move that came over here and attacked my knight that was on f3 at the time, I had no confidence. I thought that I fucked up the opening. I thought that this was losing. I thought that if I have to take with the g-pawn, I'm fucked. I had no idea that actually it's fine. It's not a big deal. But in the game, I evaluated it because I had never had that position before. It felt like a blunder to me. And so my confidence now at this point was pretty high. And I thought that, hey, my attack is coming to rage through. So I declined the draw and I took the bishop. And they took back. And then here I thought to myself, okay, I need to get this bishop to be way better. I have the advantage of 2 bishops, which is great. I want to be able to play this, and bring my bishop this way and kill him on this diagonal and just bring my rooks, and it's going to be great. I have a great attack that's coming through, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it. So I looked at the board. I thought for maybe 2 minutes, and I played d4. Completely forgetting that the knight can just come to h4. And now my advantage is gone. I have blundered that away in one move. I also blundered the exchange, and my opponent offered a draw. And I accepted. Because I had just blundered the exchange, and I think he felt bad for me, and he offered the draw again. He was like, I'm going to offer a draw again. And I was like, yeah, let's just end this game. Like, I was just mad at myself that I blundered the exchange. Just a simple fucking fork right there. I just wasn't paying attention to it. I played way too quickly, and I think that I was tired, honestly. This being my third game of the day, I just wanted to go home. I was done. I was very sad that I blundered this, and I just accepted the draw, and me and my opponent walked out, and he was actually a really nice person, and we just chatted about the game, and we both were upset with ourselves. He was like, oh my goodness, like, you know, the one time I'm actually, you know, now up, I then offered the draw. My coach is going to be so mad at me. He was a really nice guy, and it was funny. And there's no way of getting out of this. This doesn't work, because if I take, they're going to do this, and then if I take this way, they still get to do this. So there was no way of getting out of it, sadly. And I was going to go down the exchange regardless. So, bit of a bummer for me. But it got to be a draw, even though I was winning in this game. And I felt like I totally could have beat this person. But I was tired, and I blundered the exchange. And it happens, okay? I got to leave, and I went and got dinner with a friend who was at the tournament, my friend Najib, and then my friend Hannah was also there with me, and we went and got food, and it was great, and it was lovely. So I'm glad that my game ended early and it didn't go for 4 hours. I think this was only like maybe an hour and a half game in total, and I got to rest before my 2 rounds the next day. So a little bit of a short game, not too crazy. I got out of a little bit of trouble. I caused some trouble. I feel way more confident now playing with an open G file if that ever happens again. So at least I learned that from this game. Yeah, but other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.